Thank you. Please be seated. And thanks for that kind introduction. I'll just add one line to it. I am a grandfather. My son's wife had a baby on my birthday. So I share the same birthday as my granddaughter. So thank you very much. Thank you. A very good afternoon to you all, and congratulations to the graduating class. Chairperson of the University Council, faculty, staff, and students of the Accra Business School. Let me make a special mention of my brother and friend, Bishop Gideon Titiofe. You deserve congratulations for the contribution you have made not only to our educational space, but to the development of leaders through the various programs and sessions you continue to develop. And I was telling Bishop that I haven't worn a suit and a tie for quite a while since I left office, and so it's taking him to get me to dress up like this. Now, before I give my speech, let me give the qualification for the speech. 1, I'm a left of center politician. You can call me a socialist. 2, I was former president of the Republic of Ghana who lost 2 elections. And 3, I'm a member of the NDC. And so if there are any prejudices in this speech, I've qualified them already. I know that you've been taught to be critical thinkers, and so I'm giving you the markers for the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure indeed to be here on a day when we are celebrating the achievement of brilliant, determined young men and women at the 13th congregation of the Accra Business School. Congratulations for the successful completion of your various programs of study. You've achieved a feat worthy of commendation and celebration. Well done, and in our local language we say, Ayiko. Let me also congratulate the Accra Business School for the incredible job at nurturing and training generations of leaders whose success in their various fields of endeavor will propel the progress of this dear country of ours. Graduation, or in some jurisdictions is called commencement ceremonies, signify not much an end to study, but a new beginning for graduates into what has become increasingly an uncertain world. You're leaving the predictable walls of study, where you have no doubt formed lifetime relationships and partnerships, educated and taught by dedicated lecturers with the support of management and the entire university community. I believe that you've been equipped with the right knowledge, skills, tools, and resources, and consequently have what it takes to excel in the open world out there. The world is waiting for you, and the stage is yours. The famous writer William Shakespeare, in his famous "All the World is a Stage" monologue spoken by Jacques, is appropriate in this context. You're all players, and you have your entrances and your exits. And one man in his time may play many parts. The part about the whining schoolboy in the monologue refers to the tribulations you've gone through in successfully completing your programs. For many, leaving the comfort of home, focusing on your studies, and forsaking all else, or in some cases combining studies with work and family, has been extremely difficult. But you made it. You have made your entrance at this stage. How many parts you are going to play until you exit, destiny will tell. Standing behind this lectern and looking at your faces, beaming with smiles, it is obvious you are ready to conquer all that lies ahead of you, notwithstanding the huge expectations and rough terrain that lies ahead. Today you graduate from the confines of this institution and are ready to venture into a world full of uncertainty. You will no longer be under the instruction or tutelage of your lecturers, and no longer will the strictures of the rules you have had to observe while studying in this school bind you. But the guidance you received here and those rules you followed may yet make the difference between success and failure. Decades ago, I sat at my graduation ceremony at the University of Ghana with the same thoughts running through my mind as I'm sure you are experiencing now. In our time, we were excited, extremely, that what we considered the drudgery of years of academic work had come to an end. One did not have to follow the monotonous routine of studying, doing homework, and taking exams, and all that came with that. At the same time, we were filled with anxiety about what the future held for us and what will become of us in the world outside and the ivory tower of Legon. I turned out as best as my parents, my teachers, and society nurtured me to be. I'm certain many of you will go on to stellar careers and achieve amazing things once you put your minds to it. The accounts by the council and faculty suggest that amongst you are very brilliant, high-flying achievers who are set to take the world by storm. And it fills me with hope looking at your bright faces that our nation stands to gain tremendously from the application of the knowledge and skills you have acquired at the Accra Business School. I'm sure you are fully aware that it takes more than academic excellence and knowledge to succeed. While the walls of the school offered you a sanctuary to pursue your academic dreams, the world into which you graduate may not offer such comforts. You require far more than the certificates you are acquiring today to get ahead in life. In addition to your skill sets honed through carefully crafted programs you have undertaken, in addition to your skill sets honed through carefully crafted programs you have undertaken, you will require character, tenacity, integrity, perseverance to press ahead in the real world. Most of all, you need an antenna for success to guide you through. This antenna, in some cases, is a natural gift bestowed by your Creator. It allows you a certain spirit of discernment of human behavior and how to chart a course to success by knowing what the next chess move will be. And all these must be reinforced by your own character, your attributes, and your beliefs. And let me remind you that failure in many cases does not mean defeat. Pick yourself right up and just continue walking. Your qualities will not be recognized by imposing it on people, but by them discovering the jewel in you. With the right mix, you will achieve glowing success, and your family, community, and your country will be the richer for it. Not many people are aware of this story of my life, but standing before you as though in a lecture theater takes me back to this memory. Many years ago, having served for 3 terms as a member of parliament and minister, I took a decision to leave politics and pursue a doctorate degree, after which my intention was to return to teach in a university that had been newly established in Ghana. I believe that this life choice would have put me in the ranks of your hard-working lecturers here in shaping, imparting, and sharing knowledge with young people like you. But the hand of destiny intervened, and I received the calling to serve my country in the higher office as Vice President, and later, as fate will have it, as President of this great nation. My determined life choice to be a lecturer may explain my passion and delight whenever I get the opportunity to meet and interact and encourage young people like yourselves. My dear graduates, ladies and gentlemen, the next logical step after leaving school is to venture into the world of work. And perhaps the organizers of this congregation had that in mind when crafting the theme of this program. And as you remember, the theme is creating jobs in the Ghanaian economy, challenges and opportunities. Majority of you having obtained your diplomas and bachelor's degrees and master's degrees may be thinking about securing attractive jobs. I regret to be the bearer of bad news, that the prospects in this regard are not very favorable at this time. And this is no fault of yours. According to available statistics, the rate of unemployment has been increasing at a constant year-on-year for the last several years. This means that our labor force is growing faster than we have been able to create jobs to match it. Coupled with this is the fact that the number of graduates churned out each year is staggering. Data, according to Statista, indicates that in 2020, there were slightly over 547,000 students enrolled in tertiary education in Ghana, of which you are just 212 of you, out of 547,000. Of this figure, about 100,000 are graduated from our tertiary institutions each year. To put it in a better context, the 2021 Population and Housing Census states that a total of 18,619,021, that's 60.4% of Ghana's population, are within the working age brackets, and that includes all the youth of Ghana. The worrying aspect in all this is the fact that the public sector, which by the way government is telling us is full, employs less than 1 million people of our country's labor force. So if our labor force is 18 point something million and the public sector takes only 1 million or less, then you can understand the context in which I'm talking. Unfortunately, thriving parastatals that were flourishing a few years ago have been run into the ground by political appointees who have mismanaged the affairs of the state-owned enterprises. This constrains further the ability of the public sector to employ. Let me put our situation in a better context. Compensation costs in our budget for 2022 was estimated at 55.3% of tax revenue. It means of all the taxes we collect, we spend 55.3% to pay wages and salaries in the public sector alone. Amortization and interest payments consume the rest of our taxes, and even requires that we borrow to cover the total cost. This situation has compelled government this year in the 2023 budget to announce a freeze, or should I say a ban, on public sector employment. This makes the situation rather dire for you. It means the opportunities for employment for your cohorts can only be found in the private sector or through self-employment. That's the reality you face. Unfortunately, due to mismanagement and reckless expenditure by government over the past 5 years, the private business environment is also in a very poor state today. An ambassador of a European country who called on me recently noted that 7 companies from her country that had existed in Ghana have closed their businesses and left Ghana completely. And she also said some others have moved their offices from our dear country, Ghana, to Cote d'Ivoire. Only recently, you must have heard that Game, a retail outlet from South Africa, has announced that it's closing all its retail outlets in Ghana. Today, businesses are folding up as investors cut their losses in the wake of an almost collapsed economy. The Citi is at its lowest in decades, having plummeted by a massive 54% in value since the beginning of the year. And it has acquired, as you have heard, the dubious reputation of being the worst performing currency in the world. Rating agencies have given us the lowest ratings we have ever had, and with the Moody's latest rating put us in junk status, at par with Sri Lanka, which already has started defaulting on its debts. Revenue continues to underperform. Deficit and primary balance targets for the third quarter of this year have been missed by significant margins. This only portends more borrowing to plug the hole in our finances and will take our public debt beyond the 500 billion Ghana cedis figure by the end of the year, where it currently hovers, creating a debt to GDP ratio of about 105%. The central bank is printing money in billions of cedis to finance government's recurring deficit. And what this is doing is pushing up inflation further because of money supply. Already, as I said, our debt to GDP ratio is estimated to exceed 100%. In a desperate bid to make up for the self-inflicted revenue shortfalls, VAT is being increased effectively to 21.5%, even as the 2023 budget shows the introduction of at least another 22 different tax measures. October inflation has gone up to 40.4% and appears set to rise even further in November. And this figure is even disputed, is believed to be quite higher than that. All these indices are stifling the private sector and pushing investors away. The combined effect is making life even harder for the generality of our countrymen and women. But worst of all is the erosion of Ghanaian indigenous capital by some unfortunate policies of government. And the first, I dare say, is a poorly thought through banking sector clean-out. The implementation of this exercise led to a loss of almost 10,000 jobs in the financial sector. Apart from that, the economy was saddled with an unnecessary debt in excess of 22 billion Ghana cedis. This also led to a massive loss of capital that the Ghanaian private sector had invested in the collapsed banks and private investment institutions. The second is the catastrophic depreciation of our national currency, the Citi. An almost 52% depreciation in our national currency in just about a 9-month time frame means the savings and capital of Ghanaians have been devalued in real terms by that figure of 52%. So let's say if you had a capital or savings of 1 million Ghana cedis in January this year, 2022, the real value of your money today in November is 480,000 cedis. Let me put it in better context. The Citi was redenominated in 2007 at 1 cedi to $1. It took 15 years from 2007 to 2022 for the Citi to depreciate from a parity of 1 cedi to $1 to reach a ratio of 6 cedis to $1. That's the beginning of 2022. Unfortunately, due to bad handling of the economy, it has taken only 9 months for the Citi to slide from 6 cedis to $1 to 15 cedis to $1. This has severely devalued the investment and savings of Ghanaians. Again, I would say government's inability or unwillingness to pay arrears on validly executed contracts has created a debt backlog that affects financing institutions, contractors, construction material suppliers, fuel distributors, auto mechanics and equipment repair enterprises, and other private sector Ghanaian businesses. This has led to the collapse of several local enterprises in the business value chain. Government's insatiable appetite for borrowing in the last 5 years has also crowded out the private sector and made it difficult to access credit to expand or retool private sector businesses. Financial institutions, due to assessment of risk and higher interest offered on government instruments, have preferred to invest heavily in government paper, leaving the private sector in the cold. The pending debt operation to be undertaken by government is set to worsen the plight of the local private sector. While details have not yet been made known, and I hear on Tuesday it will be announced officially, so we'll know what the details are. Government's unilateral offer to pay zero interest in 2023 and a suppressed interest rate of between 5 and 10% over the next several years will further worsen the situation of the Ghanaian private sector. A worst-case scenario is the contemplated compulsory extension of maturities on government bonds and the haircut investors will have to take if they decide to cash out because they can't wait that long. And let me explain. It says there will be no haircut, but it says if your bond was mature in 2023, we won't let it mature in 2023, it will mature in 5 years' time. And so if you just decide that you can't wait for 5 years and you say, I want my money, then they say, we'll give it to you at the market value, 20% haircut or 30% haircut. So that's what it means when they say there's no haircut, but really there's a haircut if you can't wait. People have lost value on their investments and could potentially lose even more. To add insult to injury, an ordinary Ghanaian who comments on the predicament facing Ghanaians via his Twitter handle is arrested in an early morning operation and detained in flagrant violation of his rights under the 1992 Constitution. And yet, in the wake of all these disturbing happenings, government MPs and cabinet ministers seem to have no interest in appearing as the people's representatives in Parliament to debate government's own budget for 2023. Many have rather chosen and have been permitted to go on vacation, to go and cheer the Black Stars, who unfortunately lost yesterday. Somebody said it's bad the Black Stars lost, but it's good that all the ministers and MPs are coming back to come to Parliament and do our work for us. Only a handful of MPs on the minority side have shown up in Parliament this week to participate in the budget debate and defend the policy choices therein. And I dare say never has a government displayed such level of disinterest in working on its own budget at a time of great economic crisis and suffering, during which utmost seriousness and urgency are required to address the problems that we face. This represents an unprecedented dereliction of duty and responsibility, and I think the President must be putting his foot down on this. The budget itself is regrettably bereft of some of the sound alternative pathways that we as the lead opposition party and the civil society organizations offered in the last few months. In a situation as we have, raising revenue and cutting expenditure are the quickest and optimal ways to emerge from this crisis. It means while you're raising revenue, you must be cutting expenditure so that you can balance the budget. Unfortunately, in this budget, Ghanaians are lumbered with steep additional taxes and no tangible cuts in government expenditure. They just say, don't travel in Accra with your V8. If you are traveling out of Accra, you can use your V8, but don't use it in town. I mean, who's going to monitor where you use your V8 or other? Expenditure has increased significantly by almost 80 billion cedis, and there are no significant expenditure cuts that mirror the gravity of the situation we are in. It appears that we're set to live with the excessively bloated size of government, especially in the presidency. One would have thought that the size of government will be reduced to cut down expenditure. This administration is not willing to make any sacrifices. All the sacrifices are to be borne by the Ghanaian people. It is also riddled with yet more frivolous and avoidable expenditure that would have saved resources that can be channeled into more productive investments. Graduates, ladies and gentlemen, I do not intend to dampen your spirits, and I'm sure with this narrative you are all in a very gloomy atmosphere. But I rather wish to offer hope. Yes, hope. Together we can all put our shoulders to the wheel to transform our nation. And that is why you went through this training, to give you the skills so that all of us working together can turn our nation around. There's a way out of this seemingly hopeless situation that is a threat to our very survival as a nation. There are a myriad of suggestions for creating jobs in our economy, and there might be as many ideas as the 30 million population that Ghana has. And I'll be the first to say talk is cheap. And as I cautioned some people some years ago, that they do not appreciate the onerous responsibility of serving in the office of the president since they had not been there before, you shouldn't just talk and think that everything is rosy. It will take a marathon of governments running a relay, as I alluded to in my last State of the Nation address, working by national consensus to come out with a development plan that is agreed to by all. One of the banes of our country is that every new government comes with a new development plan, and so we don't have continuity of plan. We must as a nation agree on what our plan is for the next 10, 15, 20 years, and every government that comes must abide by that plan. This development plan can be tweaked by successive governments, but must maintain a priority investment program that is not altered over an agreed period of, say, 10, 15, or 20, or even 40 years. This must be accompanied by fiscal discipline that goes with governance reforms and creates an environment for sustainable job creation. Not the NAPCOs and the youth employment agencies and things like that. Those are ad hoc measures, and they are temporary and not sustainable. There are many ideas, but a few I will touch on for now are as follows, and this is not exhaustive. I'm sure all of you here have others that you would add to it. One is macroeconomic stability. Macroeconomic stability is essential for private sector growth and job creation. The cyclical boom and bust events we have had in terms of our economic indices have not been helpful for sustainable job creation. In one period, the economy faces shocks and is unstable. In another, it is stable and work resumes. Businesses grow when the economy is booming, and they go bankrupt when the economy declines. In most cases, these are reasons beyond the control of private sector operators. Private sector operators do not run the economy, but mismanagement of the economy by the handlers of the economy affects their businesses in a major way. Creating a three-shift 24-hour economy. One of the measures we can adopt to get our economy back on track is to adopt what I call a 24-hour economy to drive our industrialization and business agenda. The focus will be to create jobs for the millions of our labor force and to also avoid the phenomenon of working poor. When Ghana adopts and implements a 24-hour economy system, it will be a norm to have a 3 rotating shift of 8 hours each day working in various sectors of our economy. And this will mean more employment and more productivity. Government can give tax incentives and other breaks to business people who want to run a 3-shift economy. You can give them tax breaks so that it attracts them to do so. You may have heard an accusation that my administration provided too much electric power to Ghanaians. Well, we complain of excess power because we do not have enough working industry. If we had industry working, we will not say power is too much. Our plan in government was to use the excess power for Ghana's industrialization drive and for exports to our neighboring countries. We must resist the temptation to constantly focus on catchy but empty slogans and fanfare, but actively work to diversify our economy. And by this I mean 1D, 1F, 1V, 1D, one something, one child, one egg, one child, one chocolate. It sounds catchy, sloganeering, but it really doesn't take you anywhere. Diversification of our economy. The time has come to strongly push for a diversified economy. The period of over-reliance on the narrow clutch of natural resources is over. Gold, cocoa, oil have been the mainstay of our economy in recent times. Diversification must focus on import substitution to achieve food security and save valuable foreign exchange, and create a massive export drive in order to provide sustainable jobs within our economy and expand earning of forex to make Ghana more competitive. Because if you buy that bag of Vietnamese rice, you're exporting jobs to Vietnam. But if you buy a bag of made in Ghana rice, you're creating jobs for Ghanaian farmers. And that's why I encourage people to eat gobe, and I'm called the gobe patron today. Diversification must focus on import substitution to achieve food security. And I'll give an example. Kenya has no mineral resources. Yet, on tourism, agro-processing, exports, finance, and other service sectors, Kenya has a GDP as big as ours, if not bigger. We must do all we can to reduce imports so that our currency becomes stronger. We must ensure value addition to our produce and products so that all actors in the production value chain, such as farmers, in the case of agribusiness, can enjoy enhanced incomes even as the government also earns the much needed foreign exchange. We must negotiate to make more from our natural resource endowments. And God has richly blessed us with gold, manganese, bauxite, oil, virtually everything. We must fully explore the reserves of these natural resources we have. Where we have the capacity and technology, we must exploit the resources ourselves, instead of always running to seek foreign partners to exploit it for us. For businesses that have long paid off their investments in our natural resource sector, increased partnerships with the state or the Ghanaian private sector will be the preferred way forward. For new investment, a legislation that allows a certain amount of local content or participation, local participation, would be in order. For the private sector to thrive and grow, we need to fight corruption. Money saved from the fight against corruption can reduce public sector expenditure. A reduction of public sector expenditure will stabilize the macroeconomic environment and create a more predictable environment for the private sector to grow. Again, we must match academic curriculum with industry's needs. This refers to structural unemployment. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to also propose that academia and industry have a regular forum to meet and discuss what industry's manpower requirements are. Instead of the shot in the dark approach where we just train people in all areas, we must tailor our training to suit what industry wants. There will be a reduced need to import personnel into the country to do jobs that our Ghanaian labor force should be qualified to do. In fact, it's for this reason that under the NDC administration we held the first such conversation between the Ministry of Education, academia, and industry. We also identified TVET as a vital area that could play a leading role in our envisioned economic and industrialization drive. This is why we began the retooling of our TVET institutions up to the tertiary level. As part of measures to attract the brightest and best students, we have upgraded our polytechnics into technical universities and started upgrading their infrastructural needs, invested in tools, equipment, and modern laboratories and enhance the level of their teaching faculties. We should have a free apprenticeship program for self-employment. For those who may not have the academic wherewithal or interest and yet have the ability to imbibe practical skills and knowledge based on our carefully conducted human resource gap analysis, we propose that government implement a free national apprenticeship program. This should be done by establishing centers in TVET institutions in all the districts to provide free training to such apprentices. Government must also sponsor youth for free apprenticeship training with certified master craftsmen. With this, instead of having young people wandering around with no prospects of employment, we would have people sponsored by the government employing themselves and earning decent incomes as seamstresses, tailors, drivers, hairdressers, mechanics, vulcanizers, welders, IT technicians, graphic designers, photographers, film producers, and other artisanal trades. This human resource base would be essential for rapid industrialization, job creation, and entrepreneurship. Indeed, as said and offered time and again to this administration, there are a plethora of solutions for jobs that the NDC proposed in its People Manifesto of 2020. I've encouraged the government to consider engaging in a national dialogue on the economy to create a mass fertilization of ideas and bring relief to the Ghanaian people who are undergoing some of the most difficult times since independence. There are good examples in leadership you must follow, but there are also bad examples you have no doubt observed that you must eschew. Do not forget that serving people does not mean following your personal interest and enriching yourself and family. Taking to personal interest in public office is akin to corruption. Where you have a good leader, the organization flourishes. Where you have a bad leader, the organization perishes. As you step out of the walls of this university, you must be part of the change you want to see. You must be part of building the Ghana we want. Do not cocoon yourselves in your establishment or wherever you work. Take an interest in national leadership, because however well you run your business or your life, it affects your well-being and your survival. Do not leave everything to the politician. The politician can make your life better or worse. Get involved and change things if you do not like the way things are. You have what it takes, and I have no doubt that our country will soon become the great and strong country, the black star of hope and honor that we want. And so I thank you for your very kind attention, and I wish to congratulate you again.